What's up, dudes? Today I'm going to be talking about Kafe Dostoyevsky defenses and how to set up every single site on the map, including the mining dining site. So this will be for my smoke mains, my mute mains, my mirror mains, anyone with a shotgun who can set up the site to show you guys where the appropriate reinforcements should be and how to make holes, where to make holes, floor holes, head holes, rotate holes, vaultable rotate holes, walk-through holes, all of that stuff. So we're going to be talking about everything on Kafe, going over every single site. So stay tuned so you can be not shit. Okay, so let's start off with the default site, which would be bar. For the sake of the video, I'm just going to be picking smoke on every site. So depending on where I put up my shield and how I make the holes, you can do this with any shotgun operator really, and feel free to adjust these to your own playstyle and the operators you play. So, you know, if you play Ella shotgun, you can still do that with her and kind of figure out the missing parts by yourself, depending on what operator you're running. So let's start right off the bat by reinforcing this cocktail wall. This cocktail wall is huge, and this is why. So reinforcing the cocktail wall allows you to have a defender play in this spot, which normally you would be able to see from Cigar. So if you don't reinforce this wall, the attackers can come over here and they can kill the player playing in cocktail, so it's not ideal to leave this wall soft. So reinforcing this is going to be step one of a basic cocktail setup. After that, you want to make a rotate hole beside this wall for your player playing in cocktail. That way you can push up aggressively under the skylight if you need to. You can play from this bar and then retreat to cocktail without having to expose yourself from the skylight as well as cigar shop. So making a rotate hole here is going to be really important. There's a couple ways to do this. So you can either make the rotate hole crouch, which is what most people do, but I actually prefer to do it vaultable, and this is why. So let's make the hole here. So I prefer to make the hole vaultable because when it's vaultable, the pillars player, if somebody goes into pillars to look up to see the guy cocktail, they can't see you here anymore. So the soft wall covers the area you'd be standing in cocktail. However, if you do it crouched, and I've died to this before when this hole is crouchable, an attacker could come into pillars and actually see up into cocktail a lot better. So they can get a better angle on the player playing in cocktail, which is why I prefer to do it vaultable. The other thing about the vaultable hole is you can peek out and throw smokes over it a lot easier than you'd be able to with the crouch hole. So that's pretty much just preference, but I prefer the vaultable one than the crouchable one. Because you have the shotgun anyway, making this hole in the wall is really, really strong. So if you have a teammate with a 1.5 sight or a 2.5, they can hold this angle onto shop, and this is actually a pixel all the way to the back of cigar shop. So if we run over here, I'll show you. You can actually see the bullet hole on the wall. So any attackers peeking into long bar will get smoked by this pixel angle from all the way back on the C3 bar. So this angle is super sick. It takes one shotgun hole to make. You might as well make it every time just in case your teammate decided to use it. Making holes in the B1 bar is really important as well. This is a lot easier with impacts as it opens up the whole bar for you, and it's pretty thick as you can see, so shotgunning it isn't ideal, but this makes it so attackers can't plant in the default spot as easily. Because they're exposed to anyone playing in cocktail peeking from cocktail area. So making these holes is really strong. You don't have to do it, but it definitely helps out on a defense. The same thing with the long bar holes here, which are a lot easier to make. It just makes it so your freezer player can see anyone coming around the new balk, but you can also deny the default plant spot from here as well. In terms of freezer, you want to make just a crouch rotate here. This is just a standard rotate hold to get your teammates in and out of freezer. That way, if you do need to retake it, you can come back through this rotate hole. And then reinforcing this is just gives you another safe spot to play in stacks. So this reinforcement is mainly for if the other team, the attackers, get this freezer wall open, which you will also be reinforcing. But let's say their thermite or Habana opens up this wall, then this is just a safe place to play, but you can still contest freezer by peeking off the reinforcement. So this is a good way to contest the freezer control without being completely vulnerable if this wall is soft. So you want to reinforce off the freezer walls as well. This is just pretty standard. So if the attackers get piano control, this wall is pretty important to have reinforced. Seeing through freezer is cutting off half of the top floor, so you definitely want to reinforce those. In terms of the bathroom wall, you have two options. You can either reinforce both of them off, which is what people are starting to do a lot more in high-level games. Or you can make a rotate hole for your players to rotate through bathroom and freezer. The only problem with this is once the attackers do eventually get control of piano, and they will, is that they can then use this rotate hole against you to get angles into cocktail. So this would be where that C1 player is playing. So I prefer to reinforce off both the freezer walls. You don't have to. The only thing about that is it does make it a lot easier for attackers to push up the white hall. So if you lose bathroom control, then the attackers can push up white hall and contest C1 this way, which is why you'll want a player playing on the white stairs to contest anybody attacking, pushing up the white hall if you do decide to reinforce those walls. So you can either make a rotate through here or reinforce it off. I just prefer to reinforce it off, but you definitely want to reinforce this wall. Another thing about leaving this wall soft is if you reinforce the bathroom wall, but you'll always want to make sure you get this wall for sure. If you reinforce the bathroom wall, you can still contest that plant spot. So that's the default plant spot that I was talking about before. I didn't really shotgun the bar out appropriately enough, but there you go. So that's where that default plant spot is on the bar. So you can contest that from bathroom, which is really nice if the attackers aren't taking piano. This is a really powerful spot. And then you can rotate out and push up if you need to, rather than having to rotate all the way back around through the white stairs. Head levels on this wall are pretty standard. For the bathroom player, you can contest cigar, you can test ticket, you can contest the rappel and stage. So making head holes on this wall, whether or not you reinforce on these, is super strong. And then your player in bathroom, if this is reinforced off, can then retreat down the white hall once he feels like he's under too much pressure. A default spot for the shield is this pixel area. A lot of attackers and attacking teams, even in really high elo, struggle to clear this shield. So usually like coupling a couple ADSs with it is really nice. And then you can contest cigar. And then with the shotgun, you'll want to open up kind of like these foot level holes along the cart wall. I used way too much of my ammo on that B1 bar, which is why you probably shouldn't shotgun open, usually just impact it open. But opening up the holes here allows you to play the shield. If they decide not to clear the shield, you can cut off the entire site for anyone trying to push in through the cigar shop. So that's another strong angle to open. You want to reinforce off the two red walls just to make it more difficult for the attackers to get into piano control, make them waste more time. If they're not bringing a hard breacher, that's going to really throw them off and allow you to play deep in piano a lot safer. But yeah, reinforcing off those red walls is really key. And yeah, that's pretty much your basic site setup for Kafe, for the top floor Kafe. If you're playing the smoke, you can either play in like the cocktail and use your smokes to stall out cigar shop, or you can play in this freezer area, especially if this is reinforced off. This is a really strong spot to play. And then you can use your smokes to either stall the new hatch push, or again, you can use them on the shop door just to stall at the shop push. You could, if you want, save them for plant. A lot of people go for plant on their skylight as well, so you can kind of toss them from freezer to deny plant there as well. One last thing I forgot to mention on the cocktail bomb site is if you break these beams here and shotgun out this piece of the B2 bar, you can actually get this really dirty angle into shop, and you can catch a lot of people off guard with this angle too. So, okay, so on kitchen, there's a couple different ways to set it up. And this is going to be a lot depending on if you're queuing by yourself, if you're queuing with a team, you know, people you can rely on. So I'll go over kind of everything that you can do on kitchen and the default-ish things that are certain. So right off the bat, you're going to want to reinforce this prep wall and make feet holes along the bottom of the other wall. The feet holes are really strong. A lot of people double reinforce this wall, but leaving the feet holes open makes attackers a little more sketched out, I guess you could say, when they walk into the kitchen. Because when you're coming in here, not only do you have to worry about people sitting behind here or like playing close on this wall, but you also have to worry about anyone playing behind the bake rack or swinging out of prep. So rather than, if this wall's reinforced, you can just come in like this, take your one-on-one fights, and then fight the prep guy afterwards. They then have to worry about, oh, this guy might swing me from here, or he could swing me from here, or I could get swung from here. So now it's like an extra thing the attackers would have to worry about when they're coming in here. So making these feet holes, it's simple and very effective. You're going to want to reinforce this small bakery wall as well, because if it's open, the attackers can get this angle on the small bake window all the way to hold prep. So this is an easy way for attackers to get bakery control. So if you notice this on the attacking side, something you could use to your advantage is opening this wall and just holding the prep swing. If you have a guy out there holding that, then coming into bakery is a lot easier because you don't have to worry about the defender coming in and swinging it on you, because this guy's going to kill him if he tries to do that. So reinforcing this wall on defense is really strong because it allows you to make those swings out of prep, basically. So it allows you to do just that. It allows you to push up on prep and play aggressive on these kitchen guys without them being able to cut you off from the small bake window. So reinforcing this wall is huge. So right now you're at 2 reinforcements, and you can either make a rotate here and set up your shield in bakery to actually contest bakery and try to keep bakery control. If you are doing this, I would probably use your smokes to stall out this door as long as you can, just to waste a bunch of the attacker's time. And then you can always fall off and reinforce this off after. So that's one option, is to actually hold bake. But the more default option, which most people do, is just reinforce off both of these bakery walls, which is pretty simple. You know, you run a Cade or a Mute and you put some wall denial on the wall, make it hard for the attackers to open the wall, and then usually place some vertical holes above. So if you are doing this and you have roamers, I would recommend making holes above prep, because then your defender can sit up here and make sure the attackers don't push through here, because the attackers would be more worried about the sinks angle. They might check this a little bit, so you have to be a little careful, but it just adds, again, more pressure to attackers trying to take this control. In terms of the red wall, what a lot of people do is open up this wall and reinforce the other red wall. So this is an example of if you're in a 5-stack or you're with a couple teammates that you can rely on, because this angle is great for defense because it allows you to sit in coat and hold the walk through small bake as well. Now, if you don't have teammates you can really rely on, I would probably just like reinforce this wall off, because then if the attackers get coat control, it can really work against you, because they can cut the whole site in half at that point. They can do the same thing from red stairs. If they come down red stairs and play here, they can look all the way back of sight. It's really sketchy if you're on your own, so I would just recommend reinforcing it off if you are solo queuing as a smoke main or a mute main. You can set this up with mute the exact same way. Again, you just don't have the shield. This is the default rotate on kitchen, so you want to make this every time. I like to do it kind of 6 high, because then you can peek off of it and contest the breach a little better. If it's crouch, it's a little harder to get the fight, but this allows you to hold small from here, allows you to peek the breach if they do have it open, and then you want to reinforce off this middle wall here as well. So at this point you have 3 walls left, and usually the defaults for the rest of the walls would just be the 2 freezer walls and the hatch. Obviously, you're not going to have time to reinforce all 10 walls, so try to just grab whatever your teammates aren't grabbing out of these 10, and then kind of go from there. Sometimes people do like to use reinforcements of Rome, so you might not have all 10. In that case, leaving one of the freezer walls soft and just making some holes in it is just fine too. And lastly, you'll probably want to just put some holes above this wall, so if you are playing the smoke, you can either hop on this bar and contest prep, the walkthrough prep, you can see it right there, or you can just play on the reinforcement and throw your smokes over to deny the default plant. That was a horrible smoke throw. I'm not gonna lie, that was a horrible smoke throw. Default plant is usually in this U or right here, so I would make a hole right here. It's kind of a tough toss. You can either throw it to the side here like that. If you know, it kind of depends on where you know they're planning, but if they are planning on the bomb, you can use this one right here to just get the default plant spot. Round win right there. Lastly, you want to make the whiskey rotate, especially if you have teammates that can play this area. So if you do have, like, say 2 teammates or more, you'll have one playing coat and one holding down this whiskey area. Either that or in VIP with the shield and VIP. And then having these freezer holes allows them to contest the freezer drop, but also hold VIP a lot safer. And then you'll have just you on site basically holding the push up. And then ideally another guy above. You can even make these holes from mining and train to contest the walk-in through the breach. So especially if you know the team is not clearing you guys out, not taking vertical control, these holes are like super strong, because at this point they can't come through the bake breach, they can't come through small, they have to feed up the red hall in order to actually get into sight, which is when you would just sit here with a shotgun holding the double door. They try to walk in, you're going to blow their face off. So that's a kitchen bomb site. Pretty simple. Pretty default, but a lot of ways you can change it up and kind of work with it along with your teammates to make it a really strong site. So next up, we got the reading and fireplace site, which is usually the go-to over the mining site. Mute is definitely preferred on this site rather than the smoke, just because there's not a lot of spots where you can actually use the smoke canisters on the site. Smoke he's good still. You can definitely run him on this site to use him for like the default plan on this. But mute is usually picked more often because you can also use your nitro to blow up anyone trying to push up the long bar from underneath. So mute's usually the go-to here. Right away, you probably want to throw a mute jammer down on this reading door, just so it's a lot harder for, rushes or drones just coming in through sight. You want to mute off your reading wall and reinforce these two walls as well. So these two walls are absolutely key to this site, especially when you're just doing a default hold. Now, a lot of teams will try to come in through train and plant right here on this wall, which is why you want to reinforce off this wall and mute it off as well. The other thing you can do to kind of contest this default spot on dining is make footholes along the wall of 90. Now, if you make the footholes here and the head holes on this wall, it makes this one-way angle that's really hard to challenge as an attacker. So with this, basically what you can do is see anyone trying to go for this default plant, but all they'll see is this. So they can't see you, but you'll literally just blow their toes off if they're trying to plant in that spot. Now, the default plant spot for reading would be this spot, which is why you can literally just shotgun this one open as well. This is better, works a lot better with an impact, so if you do have a teammate with impacts, definitely just get them to impact it. But this makes it so you can stand in laundry and safely deny the plant without the cover from pillars killing you. This is a default rotate into laundry, which allows you to just rotate fluidly through reading, and then you'll want to make this rotate on the back of dining as well. So that way you can kind of rotate between all the sites a lot easier than just these two doorways, which, again, this doorway can be cut off from red, so a lot of the time you'll have to use this white rotate instead. Reinforcing this dining wall is usually pretty standard, so reinforcing that as well. Either that, or you can make holes in the top of the wall and have a teammate play on these stairs to contest anyone trying to push through, but usually reinforcing it is the default, quote-unquote. With your shotgun, you're also going to want to open up this laundry hatch for your players upstairs to drop off, so I'll get to the rest of the reinforcements on that now. So you have 4 reinforcements on site, and then the players upstairs will want to reinforce off these 2 freezer walls. You can mute this one as well, just to make it harder for the attackers to open it up. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can make a rotate on this one as well, but reinforcing it, usually the go-to. So 4 on site, 5 above, and then last one can go usually just on the train hatch, but if you think that they're just going to go direct through train and not actually take piano, you can also open this up instead and have your top players kind of mess around over there. If you do have any teammates with a bulletproof camera or a Valk or any sort of info, you want to make sure you get information for this long bar area, because again, you have those nitro players playing underneath on site, and you can get nitro kills on anybody trying to crouch walk up or run up or walk up. It's just as easy as setting this nitro underneath on the floor, getting a teammate to watch the cam, and telling you when to blow it for freebies. Those are some big freebies. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the site setup here. If you do have an extra wall, you can also reinforce this pillar's wall, because it allows you to sit in pillars without being exposed to heaven or the new hatch, whereas this one you can get exposed from heaven. So if we reinforce this, it's a good spot to play to contest pillars if you really want, but you got to be careful, because if they sledge above this area or open above this area, they can't see you from above, and then you can make some footholds here and kind of just hold this mining area if you so choose. Either that, or you can put the last wall on this train wall and then actually extend out into train, because otherwise attackers get this angle from the mining balcony all the way through Fireplace. So if you tried to rotate out of here without reinforcing that wall, you're going to get smoked by the guy in the window. This crouching through here makes you a super easy target. So reinforcing that wall, usually a pretty good idea as well. That's pretty much it for reading. As the mute, you can play either here with your nitro for a plant. You can... Oh, forgot about these holes. You want to make these holes as well. So this is where you would nitro. If you're playing here, you know the other team's going for a plant on the default reading spot. You can just toss it over, and that nitro will land if they're planting anywhere in this area, which usually this is the go-to. If you want to save some shotgun ammo, again, get someone to impact this out. If you do reinforce this wall, you can open up a little hole next to it just for that nitro again. Just opening up the higher holes next to reinforcements is a really easy and efficient way to deny plants on like any site. So just opening up little holes beside your reinforcements to throw stuff through is great. Just careful because holes work both ways. The attackers can throw grenades through there as well. So lastly, we have the Fireplace site. Now, Fireplace, it's okay. It's not bad if you have a good coordinated team. If you're solo queuing, I'd probably stay as far away from this site as you possibly can. But in general, what you're going to want to do is hold the train and reading area as well as cocktail and try to get attackers to have to clear out everything in order for them to actually plant the bomb. So right away, you'll want to reinforce this train wall. This is huge because the attackers can cut off the entire site from this window if you don't get it. So grabbing this wall is super important. You still want to be able to rotate in between site though, and this still cuts off the window, which is why you want to make a rotate hole on this side of the reinforcement. Got an itchy throat. Excuse me. Making a rotate here as well just allows you to still safely rotate through if they do get that wall opened up. So making the rotate here is usually pretty smart. You'll want to reinforce this hatch because if the attackers do get piano control, this hatch is going to cut the site in half, and that's something that you never really want. You want to grab the back of both these dining walls for if the attackers decide to come up white and try to open this wall and plant in dining. And then you want to open up the hatch for your teammates to drop down for nitros later on as well. In terms of setting up pillars, this usually changes up quite often, but this rotate is pretty default. The one thing about this is you have to be careful of people playing on the pillars repel when you're coming through here because you will lose your life to that. And then you want to make the laundry rotate and open up the hatch as well. The site is super complicated, but if you know everything that's going on, it can actually make a really good defense, especially in like lower ranks where they're just completely clueless and have no idea what's going on. Usually feet holes are the go-to here. And then just kind of leaving these walls as is fine. A lot of this stuff you don't have a lot of time for, which is why the site is kind of sketchy, for lack of better words. But you'll want to get this cocktail wall, and again, those two freezer walls that you would normally get. You can either get these two freezer walls, or you can open it up and put a mirror on here and open up the far freezer walls. Putting a mirror on that wall is really, really strong. This is actually goes for the bar site as well. If you put a mirror on this wall and open up this wall, it contests everything in piano. Like the attackers just can't go into piano, or they're just going to get smoked. So opening this up is really, really strong on this site because it doesn't allow them to get that piano control and use the vertical pressure to push out the site. So opening this up with a mirror, if you have mirror up, this site is just, it's really good. Like just straight up, it's just really good. So the next thing you can do is open up the bottom of this wall and then castle off the door here. So what this does is if any attackers are coming down this red hall and you have a player in pillars, you usually have a camera on this wall, like your bulletproof camera is castle good here. And then you can see down the red hallway and kind of just play off your BP. So if you see a guy here, you peek off, you kill him, the footholds are going to make it so he can't actually shoot back as well or as easily. Last two castles are kind of up to you. A lot of people will castle off this door as well and then just play off the rotate to deny and make some holes in this wall as well. I like to do this castle personally because it allows your players to play in this 90 hall. Just to, again, contest from here. You can come and impact this open late to deny plants. But you still have a lot of walls to use too, which getting this wall is really strong because a lot of teams will try to just open this up and play here. You usually don't want all of them, but I mean, I guess you could get all of them. This site's kind of fluid in terms of what you want to do. But that's pretty much the basics of it. The only other thing I would recommend is if you can bring a pulse, because the pulse late round on this site is really good. So anyone planning like on this side of the mining wheel to cover themselves from train, or planning here to cover themselves from that 90 hall, you can just pulse them through the floor and blow them up. Or anyone trying to plant in dining behind the bomb, all this stuff is soft, so you can deny the plant with a nitro really easily. The last thing I will say is if you do want to make a hole in the floor here, for your pulse. Because then if they plant up on the mining wheel, which you can plant on top of this, then you can throw the nitro up. Or if they're planting on this brick here, you can throw the nitro up and land it on the floor beside them to actually take them out. Whereas just throwing it under the cement won't kill them. So there you have it. Those are all the sites for Kafe, all the default setups, a little quick extra tips you can kind of do to spice it up a little bit. If you guys like this video or want to see more site setup videos or how to roam or other maps or attack videos, solo queue, whatever it may be, let me know in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a fantastic day and peace out.